want to welcome you to the December 9th episode of Laid Back History's 2024 Advent Calendar, brought to you by the National Road Heritage Corridor. Let's see what we're going to talk about today. So, as you can see, we're going to be talking about stagecoaches. Kind of. Kind of. The National Road was used to transport so many goods. They talk about drovers being using the road more than anyone else. And a drover was someone that pushed livestock up and down the road, trying to get them to and from markets. And they walked. And so they had drovers' inns. And a drover's inn was a place where you could go, and it was an inn or a tavern where drovers could stay overnight. And outside, there was a pen that their animals could be in. So they catered specifically to drovers. Besides drovers and maybe horseback and some wagons, you're going to see traveling the road on a pretty regular basis, stagecoaches. Stagecoaches were used to transport people from place to place. And they would advertise and they would sell themselves based on how fast they could get from point A to point B. Because that's what people wanted. They wanted to get there as quickly as possible. And so they would advertise the fastest coaches, in the region, the fastest coaches on the road. But they didn't just transport people. In fact, the Good Intent Stagecoach Company hired a driver by the name of Peter Burdine. And they hired Peter Burdine because he was supposedly the fastest driver on the National Road. And the reason they wanted him was because they wanted to transport oysters from Maryland into Pennsylvania and Virginia, and for West Virginia now, and further to the west. And they had to be quick. If they were going to be fresh, you had to have a very fast driver. And so they would advertise Peter Burdine, faster than even the mail, that he can deliver oysters quicker than the mail could. And so he becomes a very big name driver for a period of time because he could transport oysters so quickly. And it began to be a contest. You would have others, and I can't think of the gentleman's name. His last name was Stockton. That even challenged Burdine to a contest, to a race, to see who could get oysters to the west quicker. And at one point, Peter Burdine did lose. He did lose a race. But to me, it's just interesting to see that the National Road wasn't just about transporting people or livestock or goods that we grew out here to the markets in the east, but it was about getting oysters from Maryland to the west as quickly as possible so they would be as fresh as possible. So I'd like to thank you for joining me for another episode of Laid Back History's 2024 Advent Calendar, and I will see you tomorrow.